So everybody did. And welcome to day 5 of the Creating Wealth and all the great stuff that we've been talking about. I am so excited to be here, and thanks for using the chat and letting me know. We just like every day, if you have to leave early, it'll be recorded at least through that first hour. And then I'll stay on a bit and answer some questions because I still have some time to do that. Was there a question before we get started, or just checking? Gonna mute, make sure everybody's on mute. Anjali, for some reason I think you might have, she signed off. Okay, so let's get started. And feel free to use the notes chat. Any realizations coming through? How are you feeling? I love hearing all of that. Yesterday afternoon, it was recorded I think we lost my last 6 or 7 minutes. And then let's see, will you send us links, recaps of moving forward programs? This has been fantastic. Yes. And I'll talk a little bit about it today and some options for next steps. So, okay, sharing screen. Oh, I am so excited about today's conversation. I've been excited about all of them. I'm actually I was thinking to myself, even though this has been so much work, every day I'm like, oh, you've got a class to write before tomorrow. And I haven't got very much done. I could do this every day. We just all come together every day. I know we all have lives and things to do, but it's been that fun. I'm so enjoying it. And I hope that that's how you're feeling about it. And thank you for coming back and being a part of what you probably don't know about wealth creation. Today, the 5th day, we're going to bring everything together. So the joyful with money, the limiting beliefs, the entrepreneurship, what most people don't know about prosperity. I'm so excited. I know the meditations, I didn't get a chance to really talk about this, but the meditations on, let's see, day 3 and day 4. I know that those were really special and they brought up a lot of emotions for people, especially I think yesterday, people were surprised in some cases. And we're going to kind of continue what we started yesterday. So if you didn't watch yesterday, then you may go back and kind of do what we do to get today, a little section where we're doing some exercises. You may go back and want to do that again after you've done yesterday's conversation, where we did a meditation, we dove into the chakras, we did an intuitive read of what's going on in the chakras. We're going to continue that today. So keep that in mind. And yay, I'm so glad seeing these notes. And so today we're bringing together the pattern discovery, the breakthroughs, the expansion, if we have a business, building wealth, and bringing your dreams into reality. And we're going to start with a meditation because I want you to just be fully present here now. And it's going to set us up for the next part of the exercise. So you just want to take some nice deep breaths and settle in to your body awareness. Breathing in. And as you breathe in, you can think relax. And as you breathe out, release. Perhaps a bit of grounding to bring you into your body, maybe squeezing the root lock. And then that energy going down your legs into your feet, and those roots coming out and going into the earth. And just feeling this beautiful experience of being connected to Mother Earth. And all the nutrients and support and love we feel from this connection that we have with Mother Nature. And allowing that beautiful energy to come back up through your feet and up your legs and into the root, all the way up to the heart. And then also connecting into that divine healing energy from above and around, coming down through the crown of the head and moving through the third chakra, the throat, and down into the heart, where these energies mix and provide this sense of incredible self-understanding. Being here in the world, but not of it. Here we are at the end of July 2020. Just tuning into your intention for yourself as you think about what's going on in your life, in your relationships, with your money. Just noticing if there's any messages that want to come through about how you're doing, how you're feeling. And also just noticing this journey that we've been on together this week. We came together, many of us not knowing each other, maybe not knowing me yet, and just diving into this experience of being together virtually all over the world, but yet connected in the heart space that we've created together. Thinking about joy and what joy means to us, how that relates to our relationship with money, the limiting beliefs that we have come to perhaps accept without even realizing it, and the joyful experience of what it feels like to even think about letting go of things that cause us pain and suffering. And tuning into the journey, if we have a business or we're thinking about a business, just what that brought forth for you. In reality, no matter whether we're working for someone else or we're working for ourselves, we really are all in business in one way or another. You know, if there's any commerce involved in our lives, we're the business of ourselves. We're paid for our actions, for our gifts, for our skills, for our wisdom. And we receive back money in return for that. And we can just imagine this beautiful circle of giving and receiving, or sharing. You might even open it up to sharing and receiving, and how it creates this beautiful circle that's always going, and how we can notice that it's really, really juicy when there's this sense of equality in that experience, where we give and receive in equal measure, not maybe day by day, but in the grand scheme of things, this beautiful circle where we never get depleted. We always feel re-energized, invigorated through the actions of what we're creating in the world and what we're receiving back in return. And then yesterday, tuning into the chakras and our experience of how we can use them as a healing tool in our lives by understanding them. And the intuitive reads we got, you know, where we might be weaker and where we're stronger. And how that relates to prosperity and wealth creation, which brings us to our conversation today. And with that, we can relax our concentration and come back into this beautiful, loving space that we're creating together. Namaste. When we first started, Lori shared something with me, and I'm just going to touch upon it because it feels like such a beautiful share. That she said when Dottie shared with us, some of the struggles that she was feeling early in the week, and then there was an opportunity for all of us to hold space for her and to go through this process of noticing what was going on. Like, it's those moments in time that I think we have the biggest realizations, whether we consciously understand it or unconsciously. But there's a great deal of magic in those moments where we can see the vulnerability and also the assistance, like, yes, please, I'm open to receiving assistance. So it gave everyone an opportunity to see this action of giving or sharing in my case, and receiving in Dottie's case. And we all got to be a part of that together. And I think that this is what, I think the more that we see the healings happening in our lives, the more empowered we become to set a standard for the fact that this is actually possible all the time. Because especially in these worlds right now where we're so tuned into the, social media and news and all of that, we can forget that in any moment, in moments or seconds, healings can occur again and again and again for ourselves and for others. And in one moment, we think it's going to look this way. And the next we realize that that's all ready to be let go of. And something new is ready to be created. And so I want to invite you to think about what it is that you want to, and I'm using this word achieve. I think there's lots of ways I could have said this, but I was like, I really want to tune in. Today I said this is about the yang energy, and achievement, is kind of fun to play with. I think it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's energizing when we see, like, wow, look at what I created in my life. And from these pictures, there could be gazillions of other pictures. You'd have your own vision board. I had some fun pulling these together, but the idea is what do you want to achieve, right? And I just encourage you to think about that, because as we've been talking about all week, there is this journey of growth that we're either growing or we're dying. And so finding things that we want to create, and just to be clear, like, there's the guy in the lower corner just sitting and meditating, right? He's wanting to achieve realizations inside of his mind. Like, that is an achievement. Don't get me wrong, because that takes years and years and years of practice. And we're not judging here. I'm just inviting you to ask yourself in this moment, what is it that you're wanting to achieve for yourself? And feel free to share if you want in the comments. And as you think about what you want to achieve, the next question is, why must you achieve these goals? Why? Why are these goals so important to you? Anybody want to share in the notes, in the chat notes? Why must you achieve these goals that you're wanting to create for yourself? Freedom, joy, legacy. Sometimes we want to really show our children something, like that if we could do it, then they could do it. Wholeness, freedom, joy, and legacy, necessity. Yeah. Beautiful. I've always felt strongly that when something comes to us and we feel it at that, like, burning why level, that the only reason we would be feeling it is because it's actually possible for us. That we wouldn't feel it. We wouldn't feel that burning desire if it wasn't actually possible for us. It would be something else that we're thinking about. And so just even tuning into the fact that knowing our why, knowing what we want to create. Don't have to know the specifics, but we can focus on the feeling. And we're going to talk about reverse engineering. But this is really, really good, right? Why? Yeah, they are amazing. Why must you achieve these goals? Becoming best version of myself. So beautiful. Truth. And the next question is, are you interested in creating these goals, or are you committed? Okay, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Okay, so even if it's just a feeling that we're working towards, we don't actually know the complete and details. In fact, you guys, like, I would say I'm all about feeling first, and then the details come in second. So I'm just going to be honest about that. Like, I feel like there are many different ways I can achieve a feeling, and it gets me so excited that that I'm so confident that call it the universe, God, that when I'm in that zone of like, this is the feeling I want, then the details come in for me. But you listen to you. But if you're interested in something, then you'll do what's convenient and what is easy. You'll come up with stories and excuses of why you can't. I'm just going to be really honest here, okay? You'll allow your past and present circumstances to control what you think and do. If you're interested, you won't be willing to go through the discomfort of changing yourself. And because change is absolutely necessary, it's absolutely required if you're serious about breaking free from your current limiting beliefs, habits, and results. However, if you are committed, you'll do whatever it takes. You'll take action in spite of your doubt and fears. If you're committed, you'll upgrade your knowledge, your self-efficacy, which is like that navigation, right? Of knowing and navigating through life with a sense of confidence, being confident in your ability to create. You will upgrade your skills. You will upgrade your beliefs about what's possible for you to achieve. And if you're serious and committed, you'll let go of whatever's holding you back. And I would say this is the area that, I really, really enjoy teaching people how to strengthen their mindset, which is where you start. And then from there, you move into making the internal shifts needed to overcome your mental and emotional obstacles. And I enjoy teaching this, as well as overcoming the overriding your subconscious unpleasant emotions and automatic limiting behaviors that keep you stuck. Is that easy? No, it's not easy. It's not easy. Is it the most rewarding thing of your whole entire life? Yes. And I think that's what you might have heard a little bit. Jenny's a really good one because she's been doing this for a while. Thank you. I'm looking and seeing your notes. Yeah, it's more rewarding. It's the best investment. By the time you do that, going back to the comments that I gave in the beginning of the Mindful Millionaire book, which is, it isn't about how much money you have. It's about feeling like you are worth $1 million, like feeling like you're limitless, right? That you could do whatever it is that you want. And it's that feeling that matters more than anything else. It's the feeling. That's why it's so important to get some experience of what it's like to not just bust through the mental garbage that we're talking about, but also create in our lives, because it is in the creation of the things that we most want that we get this feedback loop that really, really speaks to us, because we need that to get the kind of confidence that I'm talking about, right? You don't just get that by imagining it and dreaming it and thinking, oh, I feel really great, but I have nothing to show for, this greatness that I feel inside, right? That's the difference here, is that we're using spiritual principles and teachings, but we're bringing it to the next level so that we're executing on it. And so, asking yourself this question, are you interested or are you committed, is really, really important. And I think this is what separates, we're all going to be in both places. I want to be clear. We're all going to be in both places. And there are so many times where I realize that I'm interested in something and I'm not really totally committed. And one of the ways I do that is, it's like I have an escape route. Like an escape route in my mind, like, oh, if this doesn't work out, then I know exactly what I'm going to do. I heard a story many years ago of a woman who had, she had barely finished high school, was a really terrible student, I guess, got in a lot of trouble, and her parents kicked her out, and she ended up getting a job. This is in Chicago. She got a job working for a parking lot company, right? So she was the one checking on the cars and the parking and all of that. And somehow she was able to eventually, within 10 years, buy a parking lot, and then another one and another one and another one. And she was being interviewed when I came across her story. And she said, this gives me chills even thinking about it. The interviewer was like, well, how did you do that? Like, you didn't have anything to fall back on, like, well, how did you build this enormous wealth for yourself? And she said, I don't totally know, but I know that because I had nothing to fall back on, I kept going. And the reason that was so powerful for me is I had lived, up until hearing that story, I had lived a life of fear. And the way that it played, the narrative played back in my mind was, well, you always have other options. You can go get a job. You can go do this. You could go do that. You could just quit. And I realized in that moment that actually all my protection that I had kind of created in my life was actually messing with my mindset. Because as long as I had all these plan Bs, I wasn't actually committing to plan A. And that was limiting who I became, right? Who I was becoming, what I invested myself in. And it was a big turning point, because I was like, I have all these fallback strategies, and they are keeping me from committing to the thing that I absolutely positively want. And I'm just encouraging you to think about that for yourself, if that's ever happened for you, because I'm guilty, and I'm still guilty. I still do that a little bit, but I also have this really strong voice now in the back of my head. It's like Thelma and Louise or something, where I'm like, just jump off the cliff. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Just do it. And if you fail, you are going to fail in a big way. And that's okay. Like, that's how I look at it now. It's kind of funny. Like, okay, that's the worst. Fine. I still want to commit and go fully forward with what I really want to create. So I'm hoping that you're doing the same thing. Thank you for those notes. Okay. So bringing it all together. We've been looking at this every day, just a little bit, right? Scarcity lens, prosperity lens. Yesterday, we did an exercise where I said, what do you truly value? What's going on in these chakras? And I am super, super excited to reveal something that is going to be a wonderful companion to the Mindful Millionaire. I wasn't involved enough when I was writing the book to create this chart. Now I have, and you'll get a copy of it. We'll send it in the review replay email. But what I also want to say is what I'm about to share with you is very, very advanced. And just because I've simplified it does not mean it's not advanced. But the cool thing is, like, when you can take a framework and you can simplify it, it leads to bigger breakthroughs. However, there's a lot here. So just keep that in mind, okay? And I'm not going to go through it in great depth, but I'm going to at least touch upon what's going on here. So in the course of creating I Prosper, and I want to be super clear, and Raven, you got this coming out of me yesterday when you said, like, this map, this is like a really powerful map. Like, I've never seen anything this powerful as far as transformation is concerned. And I may be adding, but that's what you said. So in my mind, it's true. And I Prosper and the chakras coming together has created a transformative map that can be used in any aspect of your life: money, food, relationships, you name it. And I kept it simple in the book, and I oriented it to your personal experiences with money. But the reason I created it was actually helping people with their business. Like, that's where it came from. But then I simplified it into personal, and now also going back to focusing on the business. So what it is it's looking at, like, where's that unhealed, wounded space inside of us, which relates to a chakra, and also what are the steps that we're going through. And on this chart, the steps are actually out of order, but if you haven't gotten into step 2 yet of the book, so from a beginner's mind, it's actually better that I present it this way. So that's why it's this way. So what we're looking at is, what are the patterns that are happening in this case, with money? And I'm focused on the small self. So maybe you're not trying to increase your income, even though you know that you'd really like to have more money, right? So there's the root chakra. Going into the sacral, maybe you've had some challenges with spending more than you earn, right? Or not paying off debt, or not feeling like you can ever pay off the debt. And this is in the sacral. In the solar plexus, we're looking at finances and managing them, right? And orienting to what's going on in the world and how great of a job we are in being this money manager. And that would include basic investing, right? So learning about these skills. So this hesitancy to lean into that responsibility with your finances. I've been talking about the heart chakra. This is about that circle that I was doing in the meditation, sharing and receiving, and having them be in equality with each other, so that we don't get depleted and we don't end up feeling like a martyr, or we don't give people the opportunity to take more than they are actually giving back to us. Right? So creating this, like, strong sense of equality and equity in our exchanges as we share our gifts with the world and receive money back in return. The throat is around trust, around significance, around speaking our truth. The brow is about bringing it all together, this comfort with bringing in, listening to both the wisdom of being a human being, having a human experience and all that we've learned, combined with the intuition. Oftentimes we see people just super intuitively connected, but kind of disconnected as a human, or vice versa. Completely connected as a human and no connection to the intuition. So the brow is bringing all of this together, and it's creating this sense of, like, I am enough, right? That's where we're headed with that. And then the crown, my husband actually worked with me on finishing this up recently. It just got finished. And he was so instrumental because he was asking me these really tough questions, and we were going back and forth. And I was so excited that he was interested at this level of, like, and it was really fun too, because he was like, holy crap, I get it. Like, I get it all of a sudden, this thing that I've been working on for 21 years. He's like, 2 weeks ago, I get it. And the crown is this, it's about this, like, decision of, like, being here fully in the human life, but not having to be of the human experience. We can be of this place that I was talking about, where the blending of the yin and the yang creates this sense of equality at this high level of consciousness. And we look down and we can see the problems that are being created outside of the small self. But when we're trapped in the small self, we have a really hard time connecting into this fullest experience of what it means to be here now as a spiritual being having a human experience. Oh, good. I think it'd be fun to have a poster. So what we're doing is this is like a landscape of what's being described in the book, and the encouragement of like diving into one at a time. But what's fun, and what I mentioned yesterday, is it goes both ways. So you pick, let's say you pick the heart chakra and you're going into the heart chakra. You're going through I prosper as you dive into the heart chakra. So it goes both ways. And there is another chart that I use when I get into the teachings that's organized both I prosper this way and I prosper this way, which is when it's like, that's when Tim was like, I can't believe that it just happened that way. And I'm like, well, that's why these are like such magical teachings. And keep in mind, I mentioned this on the first day, not only do they go deep down kind of the small self to the true self, there's also the excessive and recessive states for each of these. So there's really 21 patterns and kind of like 21 archetypes that are playing out. And that's like chapter 2. We'll get into that in the fall. But like just understanding that you have a map of your consciousness and you can self-identify like, oh, this is what's going on. This is the pattern. This is how I'm behaving. And this is where I really want to be. So we self-correct, right? We're self-correcting over and over and over again. This is fun to see the notes. I'm glad you guys like it. I'm super excited about it. So, so this is the beginning of chapter 2, and maybe we'll have books about food and relationships, and we're just gonna like have a lot of fun with it over time because there's so much here. I feel like I could spend the rest of my life diving into it. So, okay, I'm so glad you enjoyed that, and you get a little sense of what's going on. But I do want to be really conscious of time, and if we want, we can go back to it in the questions. So, like I said, I want to bring everything together. And yeah, yes, I love that, Elizabeth. So the most important rule of thumb, and like everyone, no matter how long you've been with me, like you need to hear this like again and again and again, is that this is exactly how I created my wealth, both from a metaphysical standpoint as well as from a physical standpoint. I mastered early on this incredible skill of reverse engineering the pathway to what it is I want to create. Like that is the secret to everything I've created. So if there is one secret, it's all about reverse engineering. And I'm going to give you some examples of how this works and why it's so powerful. But I just want everyone to be able to leave this workshop thinking, oh my gosh, I get it. Like I have that light bulb moment of like what I need to do next. Because I know that that's been on people's minds, and I want to really tighten this up so that you feel very complete in this process. And it's all going to come down to reverse engineering. Okay. And I'm going to give you some examples of reverse engineering. Okay. Like I'm going to bring my certified financial planner hat and kind of talk about money for a second. One scenario, I'm going to go through, like drill down deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay. So let's say we want to have $1 million in the bank in 20 years, and we're starting from zero. Okay, that's all. I'm just giving you a scenario. Everyone's got a different scenario, and you might not want $1 million, but I'm just going to give you that as an example because I wrote this book and it's about $1 million. And okay, so reverse engineering our path to that. Now, it's very interesting because I'm pulling up things. Every scenario is going to be different, but what I want you to see here is that in 20 years, starting from nothing, if you look at this chart, it sort of shows you the green chart, and, in 20 years, you'll have $1,041,000. This is being calculated at a much more conservative 7% than 12%, which is what David Bach uses. And I think that's insanity. So this is about compounding interest, or, investing and having an average return of 7%, just to make it really simple. Okay. Most people are not going to only rely on putting money in an account and trusting that it's going to be, 7% year in and year out. But we're using this to keep it simple. The green line indicates if there was no compounding interest, how much money you would have if you're saving, like quite a bit of money oh, $50,000 a year, $40,000 a year. Okay. And I'm going to take this further because you're all going, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to save that much money, but I want to show you what it looks like anyways. If you had no compounding interest, you just put that money in, it wasn't growing anything more than just what you added to it. That's the green line. The red line is what happens as you get that compounding effect, right? 7%, 7%, 7%, it starts to grow. And eventually you can see that big difference, time value of money between the green line and the red line. Okay. Hopefully that's really simple. If there's any questions, just post them. So this is the scenario. So now, okay, we're like, what would it take for me to have $60,000 in annual savings? That seems kind of ridiculous. I was like, okay, I get it. I am reverse engineering. So I'm starting with the number. I'm giving myself an idea of like, how might I get there? How much money would I have to save on an annual basis for 20 years to get there with very conservative growth, which is probably, if you follow what we're talking about here, it's actually going to be exponential because your business becomes exponential, but we're just relying on a bank account right now. Okay. So if we want to get $60,000 left every year after our expenses, we're going to say, let's say I just ran a scenario of I need $200,000 in revenue in my business. And this is a service-based business, so my costs aren't too expensive. So I'm going to spend $40,000 to get that $200,000 in revenue. And I'm going to pay about $25,000 in taxes, and I'm going to end up with net about $135,000 to work with. My personal expenses are $75,000. That is going to lead me to a net savings of $60,000. Now, of course, this is just a scenario, but I'm playing with kind of what's possible. I'm not just totally pulling it out of thin air. But do you follow me with what's going on? Like we're starting with the goal and we're drilling down to say, well, hey, this is what it might look like. I could actually create $60,000 in net savings if I was running a business with $200,000 in revenue, which is actually not that big of a business, especially when you build it correctly. Everybody with me? Anybody questioning what's going on? Silence. Got it. Okay. Thank you. So then we get into this place of like, well, where am I going to get that revenue number? Okay. So let's say you're a service-based business, you do coaching. I mean, again, there's a gazillion ways you can come up with this, but I was like, let's keep it simple. Let's say I create a program for $2,000 a year. And when I back into that, I need about 70 people spending about $2,000 a year with me to get to $140,000 in revenue. And then some of those people are so in love with what I do. Let's say 10 of them or 10 more come in and spend $6,000 a year with you. That's 60,000. All of a sudden you're at 200,000 in revenue. Now, I'm not saying that's easy to get there, but I'm saying that when we reverse engineer, all of a sudden we realize like, oh, is that all that I've got to do in my business? I've got to find 80 people on the planet. And we talked about it the other day. Like we have to get over this idea that there aren't enough people to buy our goods and services that would actually provide us with plenty of opportunity to do what we do. So we drop that away and we're like, okay, I've got 80 people, how many billions of people are on the planet? I need 80 people. And then you start asking yourself, well, what could I do for someone, perhaps a stranger, perhaps a friend that would happily and joyfully pay you $2,000 a year to do? Like now you get really creative because you're like, you can go and do the list that I gave in the freebies for Mindful Millionaire, the 50 ways that you could make money right away. You do that exercise and you say, I'm looking for 50 ways that I could find that somebody would gladly pay me $2,000 a year to help them with. You see how simple it is, folks, and how overcomplicated we make business? Not that it's not challenging, but I really felt like it was important because I do this in my head all the time. This is how I've built wealth. I just don't really normally share it because I'm like, doesn't everybody know this? That's when you really have to pay close attention when you're a teacher. It's like when you're assuming everybody knows how to do this, that's like the thing that you're supposed to be teaching. So that's what I'm teaching you today. Like in 1995, I was like, I want to be a millionaire. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but I just want to do it. And I think it'd be really awesome. And then 10 years later, we were there. And I didn't know all the steps that were going to happen that would bring that into reality. But what I want you to see is that when you reverse engineer and you get really, really hyper focused of what you're wanting to create, it's amazing. And yes, you're right. It's the planning part. I mean, that is really, really important. So, so how we doing? Hopefully good. Just getting my creative juices going. Ooh, I love it. Thank you. So I just love this picture because I feel like that's what you're supposed to be feeling right now. Like, yes, I can do this. And I have some notes. So I'm just going to look at these notes. This week has been all about giving you insight into how you can unlock your power and your potential, and how cool it is that it also happens to be an awesome way to develop this deep integrated self-love. Like that we're on the path, we're doing both. We're building external prosperity and wealth, and we're also building it inside. By unlocking this inner power, you bring greater levels of balance and equality into your life. And we get to witness the yin and the yang, and then bringing them into balance, which brings even more joy and greater wealth. And like I said before, we must break free of the self-indulgent and really like dig into that word, self-indulgent, I'm not good enough belief structures, snap out of the victim frequency, and be very comfortable asking for help along the way, which back to what I have been sharing all week, that's the foundation of a healthy community, so that we know that we're on the pathway to finding our way into feeling an enthusiastic sense, a surge of well-being that comes from living a life with true purpose and feeling a sense of equality, of balance, and of prosperity. We must believe we are capable, and I hope that you are now thinking that you have a lot more strength than you may have realized, and that you're here to create a life that you are very, very proud of living when it comes to that, dying breath. Like there's just no question. Transforming weaknesses into understanding and growth, and the idea that you can join in to this race to higher consciousness. Like if there's going to be any race, let's have it be the one for higher consciousness. And we're allowing this race to fill us with vigor and excitement. In becoming more mindful about our money, our lives change for the better in countless ways. We stop listening to what seemed to have power over us, and we realize that we are able to live life on purpose, even in times of COVID and all that's going on the planet right now. This doesn't have to stop us. It actually, there's more than enough opportunity to thrive now and into the future. In fact, I think that for many of us, if you're resonating with what I've been teaching, it's like, this is what's actually needed. And I think all of you are wanting to tap into this sort of helpful nature of like, not only do we just want to do like something that's been done in the past, but we're really wanting to make a difference according to what's going on in the world. So what we offer is actually badly needed right now, like even more than it was 6 months ago, right? So there's a belief shift for perhaps some of you. In order to help you overcome the obstacles, I've focused on writing the book. I've focused on creating the Mindful Millionaire community. I've got my podcast. I've got tons of free resources, and that's like awesome. And I was talking to Muriel about this the other day. Like that is really cool because for many of us, we do enjoy giving a lot. And so I give a ton, and I worked on this workshop. The publisher said, hey, is there something that you could do to reward, folks that pre-buy the book? And I was like, sure, I'll do a workshop. Well, I think they were like, oh, you'll give like an hour talk. Well, you can see how I show up. I was like, well, that's not going to be enough. Like, I want to do a lot more than that. And that's what kind of got created today, right? So free content is awesome, and I show up. But I also am realizing that Yeah, it's really important. I don't run a nonprofit. I actually run a business. Sometimes it's felt that way over the past few years. But again, I think I've been very clear that my goal was much bigger than the short term, that I had a plan and a strategy, and now we're moving into that strategy. And what I have seen is a lot over this past 6 years. Watching the coaching business, when I first started out, it wasn't quite like it is now. There weren't so many people doing this online coaching thing. There wasn't the access to the tools. There was a lot of confusion. Like I said, I've invested over $100,000 in just coaching alone, much less, all the other stuff that I've invested in my business. But what I have been noticing are the things that work and the things that don't work. The powerful ways that people kind of can come in and support each other, and also the critical elements of what isn't helpful when you bring people together. Like, I've been learning all of those things. I think I've taught at least 15 different programs, whether they were, 8 weeks in duration or 1 year in duration. I have been testing those over the past 6 years to see what works, what didn't work the way that we want. And I feel like that's very, very important. But also, what I've noticed is super important, at least in the folks that kind of come and want to do this work, is this sense of accountability. And so I noticed that in past programs, there hasn't been as much focus on accountability. And that was something really, really important to me going forward. And Jessica joined my team recently, and that is like how her brain works, whereas my brain doesn't work that way. And I started noticing, bringing my husband on board and having Jenny and Deanna and other folks come on board, because we all have different strengths. And I'm realizing that it's really important to help people, that there's a wide spectrum of resources available to people that want to make the kind of changes that we're talking about here. And so what I have created, and I'm just going to talk about it for a few minutes, is, and I think it's helpful just to even think about this, no matter where you are, no matter what you're wanting to create in the future. I wanted to focus on taking I Prosper and focusing on using that lens and that teaching, but applying it to the creation of business, because all these years, most of the people who have come and worked with me have been business owners. And so I've been focused on business coaching. And again, how can we create something that is focused on the assets, the opportunity, the support, the resources of a large scale program with the intimacy and support and one-to-one guidance that private coaching offers. And creating this new business model that's focused on the nuances and the opportunities in the marketplace, and then also having this really beautiful place for self-understanding to fit into it. And I think that's what's different here. It's like you can always be focused on business, but there's this piece of self-discovery. And I'll give you a good example. And this just came to me this morning. And I'll look at this. So this is so funny. So remember I was telling you yesterday, or maybe it was on Wednesday, about the fact that I have seen a lot of people go into coaching programs and then not necessarily get as much as they could out of the program. And back to my reverse engineering, I'm like, well, why is that the case? Why are people paying all this money and then not getting a lot from the experience? And then I had my makeup brush, which is just really funny. So, okay, I have this makeup brush that's like this really cool contouring tool. Guys listening to this, I'm sorry, you're not necessarily going to understand this, but the gals might. So I've been using this for years, and you just kind of use it when you're doing some eye makeup, right? And I realized the other day, for months, it hasn't actually been working. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like trying, and nothing transfers. Nothing goes onto the eyelid from the makeup, okay? And the other day, actually, I think it was like Monday, I was like, what's going on? What's the problem here? And I started washing the tip of this thing. And I was like amazed at what came off of this. And I feel like this is the reason why so many people go into coaching programs and don't actually get what they really, really need. And it's just like what was happening here. So I'll explain. This got so caked with stuff, right? With eyeshadow and mascara and whatever, and sweat and whatever else. It got so caked that it literally was impossible to take on any shadow for the eye. And I really feel like this is what happens to us. We get so caked up with crap that we literally can't take on anymore. So we go into a coaching program and all this stuff comes at us and we're trying to grab it and we're trying to take it on. But meanwhile, because there has been no release of all the crap that we're holding on to, it's just putting lipstick on the pig or putting, more makeup on the brush that's all filled up and has no room to take it. And therefore, we don't actually have the big breakthroughs that the coach is training. And it has nothing really to do with the coaching itself. It's probably awesome, but we're so full up with life that we have no space to bring it in. And what I realized is in the work that I do, I have had people criticize this subconsciously, and I've listened to it, and I didn't understand why it was why they didn't get it and why it was still what I do is so effective. Is when I saw this on Monday, I was like, oh my gosh, the difference between the coaching that I do is I refuse to invite someone into learning something new until they've dropped some of the baggage that they're holding on to so that they create spaciousness to accept and receive and really soak in the things that come next. And without that critical releasing of what we're holding on to, there's just not that much opportunity for growth. So when you clear stuff out and you clean it up, all of a sudden, this worked beautifully today, right? It had dried out. I put some stuff, it went on, it was awesome. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we're doing here. That we are creating spaciousness. And that's why people go on and double and triple their businesses. They realize that a lot of crap that they were holding on to is not serving them and they can't take it with them, and they need to drop the bags and then become the person that they really want to become. And that is what we're creating for the fall, is the opportunity to do this sort of experience of dropping it and having this incredible team of dream team board of directors there to help you in all the parts and pieces of building your business or expanding your business. And it can apply to both because we have a wide range of experience. And so I'm just going to check in. We're fully saturated. That's right, Lori. That is what happens. My goal was to create a life-changing program that would help people to develop the business and the mindset towards wealth creation. And if that's you, I'm inviting you to be part of the journey. You might also be thinking to yourself, I found my home, I found my people, I found a mechanism. I think those are all cool things to think about. And I will be able to share more. What I've done, because this is so new, is I'll give you a few of the details. It's an advisory program right now. We're looking at 5 months. That there's some flexibility in that. And again, what I wanted to do was make sure that there's time for that inner work, which is the beginning of the I Prosper process, but very oriented to our businesses and to our wealth building. And then the opportunity to grow into a 12-month program, but it's focused on prosperity-oriented mindset transformation, along with confirming your audience, dialing in your message, positioning your copywriting, putting together your offers and your programs and sales and positioning. It is those things, but I think the difference here is that it's about making sure that what you're focused on is going to reverse engineer, right? Achieve what it is that you're wanting to create. And you may be thinking too small now. And so the mindset shift is going to allow you to open up to a whole new possibility of what you could be creating. The focus is on growth and expansion. It could be a nonprofit. It could be a for-profit. I think the biggest difference is that, also what's going on here is this accountability piece, which is really important, where you've got access to and meetings with an accountability coach along the way. And that's how we can make it like private coaching in the group environment. There's more details, but I'm going to leave that for questions and answers. Let's see if there's anything else. You don't have to have all the answers to join us. You don't have to have the perfect offer, thousands of followers, years of experience. You just need grit and perseverance to be part of what we're creating, and that deep commitment. And really, I just want to circle back and say the Mindful Millionaire path, let's see, what's my next slide? Let me have this up, is about being okay with not being perfect, with not having all the answers, with not knowing at all times. There's going to be those moments, and still being aware of that and aware of yourself and how you're engaging with life. The more aware you are, the less likely you are to self-sabotage or repel that which you really want. The more you can sit with it and see how what it is that you really want to create for yourself and why it's so important to you. Anything that blocks your capacity to create and receive becomes self-evident in the I Prosper process. And I think that the goal with all of what you're learning through the book and this workshop is how to navigate the twists and turns, become really resilient in the face of uncertainty, not have it stop you in your tracks, give yourself permission to receive the joy that you know that you're wanting, being so accepting with yourself. And let's see. And I want you to know, more than anything else, that you are amazing for putting yourself forward and for being willing to commit to this week, to put yourself into it, to show up, to care. I've spent, I think, more than 40 hours working on the material this week. And my hope is that, I wouldn't do it unless I knew that it could be helpful to you if you applied it. I care very, very deeply about you and your success. And I just want you to know how incredible and special and unique you are. And that, that you shining brightly in the world helps every one of us. And the more of us that can step into, bigger and bigger ways of experiencing life, of revealing ourselves, of sharing our gifts with the world, like, I want more of that. And I think you do too. And it's pretty awesome. So you are capable of accomplishing your dreams. And I pray that the Mindful Millionaire book helps you on your journey, no matter what. I think there is one more. Okay, next steps. And we're just about done. And if you have to sign off, it's okay. We'll get you the replay. I just want to take you through this. So if you're interested in the I Prosper Advisory Program, book a call with me. We'll give you some links for that. We're also doing some limited time coaching. That feels like something that would be the next best step. That's why it was created. Great way to just see, hey, is there something more here? You're kind of realizing that you'd love to do some live work with me, then that would be an option. If not now, doing something more, read the Facebook group, read the book, join the group, post your questions, come onto the Facebook Lives. We will be relaunching Infinite Abundance. We're moving everything to Thinkific, and we're doing some cool stuff. And Infinite Abundance is like a program that provides you a daily meditation that goes really nicely with Mindful Millionaire. Some of you may already own that. And if you do, then we will be sending you an email. So watch for it, which says, hey, would you like to have access to it on the new platform? It's not going to cost you anything more. We just need to know that you want it, so we don't move you if some people don't, aren't still kind of engaged in it. So that will be happening in the next couple of weeks. So reinvigorated, new intro videos, same meditations. Jessica is helping me pull that together. It's awesome. And so watch for that. And you're going to get the diagnostic map in the email today. Woohoo! And it will help you see the patterns more easily as you go through the book. So that is what I shared. That's right. I need a side gig. So yeah, this is what we came here to talk about. I'm hoping that it exceeded your expectations. I'm back on the full screen. And I will just open it up to questions. I'm going to leave the recording on and see what happens, just so others can hear it. You're welcome. You're welcome. Stacy. I don't know why you came into the screen, but it's nice to see you. I saw your note. Actually, do you mind talking to me for a sec?
Sure.
So the reverse engineering was helpful?
Oh my God, I've been with you for a while, and this week, I don't know, it just went, I don't know, the last 2 days, I just went boom. Like, it just like, I got it. I don't know, it's like, oh my gosh. So I just,
That's awesome.
I'm just like, bam. And I've been so emotional, Leisa. I've been crying. I don't know why. It's just like, it's just coming out. Like, get it. You're supposed to get this. So thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. I can't even tell you. Thank you so much. Yeah, the going back through the chakras and your things, like it totally made. I don't know why, just totally connected this week. You know what I mean? So sometimes it takes some time to like get it, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys have all been a part of this as it's been being created. I mean, imagine if this is like 20 years from now, like we'll be looking back. I mean, my hope is, and this is what St. Martin's, why it was so pivotal with Daniela, my editor. It's like they bought this book because they wanted a book that would be on people's, nightstands for 20, 30 years, like the Artist's Way. Like that was what we intended, that it would just develop this very powerful, as a powerful tool. So in all fairness, I'm just saying to you, like you've been a part of the creation of it. And, that means that it hasn't been as clear, like having the book be finished made it clear, having just some of the best, one of the best editors in the world help usher this book into creation. Like all of that is also happening. And I mean, Jenny's been having the same thing happen. Probably Jessica's been having the same thing happen. Like they've been around for, years, and it's like, what just happened? I'm like, well, I finished the book. The book was very taxing. I gave as much as I could, but it's different, having it done.
Yeah, no, it is what you shared today. I mean, it's just you give so much, and it's just super clear. It's like, it's just like everything is just super clear now. I love it. And you've taken it even further than it was before. And it makes so much sense. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Shout out to my husband. He pulled it out of me. It's pretty funny. All day a couple weeks ago, we literally worked on that diagram, and that diagram is going to be an intro to the work from now on. So, that's also working with Nicholas and Facebook ads and some other things that we're going to be doing. So yeah, when the teacher appears and the student's ready, just like we've been saying, that's what happened for us too. It was time. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? I'm going to turn off